Aloha, good evening. Ah, what a nice place this is. What does this do? Okay, let's see if we can have a light. Nah, not that different. Not that different. Okay. Aloha, and good evening, everybody. Hey, Sandy. Hey, Janice. How's it? So we're in a little bit more of a more mellow place tonight. Hey, Brenda. How's it? Um, I don't know if chat's. I did see chat's enabled. Oh, there we go. Hey, Matt. How's it? Chris. How's it? How's it? Hey, mahalo for the start, Sandy. So we are at a more chill place tonight. Kind of needed that after last night. Last night was so cool, man. You know. Hey, Jacob and Jamit, how's it? I almost didn't go live. I made the mistake of taking a nap when I went to sleep. When I went home, and I got up at 7 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh no, I'm all groggy and stuff. And bleh. Hey, Weelani, how's it? We went over to Judd, and Judd was raining and wet, so I decided to keep driving. Tonight we're talking about the mo'o, the owahine, the supernatural tales of the mo'o. So I decided what better place to go to than this place. Aloha Cricket, how's it? This is Kunawai. Kunawai is right down in Nu'uanu. It is a little park with fish and ducks and all that kind of stuff too. Yes, sir. Hey, Alan, how's it? Yeah, last night was cool. I love last night, man. Last night just whew, took me a while to get to sleep. It wasn't because I was scared. It's because it was just the energy was awesome. There's let's see, there's basketball courts across the street, and so yeah, there's people playing basketball, and it's a park, and it's no school, yeah. So, hey, Sandra. So, cause no school, all the kids are out in force. They're walking around here too, so we may have some company tonight. We'll see, but it's I like this area. It's really nice. You read the there's a little plaque up on the way out by the lights, and it has yeah, it has a lot of ducks. It has a little plaque that tells you about the mo'o people, and it tells you about how this place used to be special to the mo'o. There used to be many ponds around here until they were covered up to build apartments and to build houses and all of that stuff, right? These were a lot of sacred healing ponds and that kind of stuff, which you find also tied into the mo'o. Um, a lot of the time, yeah, the mo'o get a bad rep because some of them are calling spirits, and some of them they kind of, yeah, they don't mean well, but that's a very small percentage of them. We'll get into that a little bit later tonight, but yeah. In Hawaii, the mo'o are the protectors of the water, right? Whether they're ocean, whether it's freshwater, but usually freshwater. I've still heard stories about the mo'o at the ocean though, and encounters and stuff. Yeah, Matthew, Noreen, how's it? Aloha. And so it's always been a fascinating subject of mine. Like the old Hawaiian legends would be like, you know, it there's you know, I'll show you guys some pictures if I can find any of them. I know I downloaded a few, but of course they're on the devices right now that I'm using to stream. Hey, Phoebe. So the mo'o are found everywhere, right? The this in Hawaii they're called mo'o or lizard people. In Japan they're called kappa. Their behavior is much of the same, right? They live in the waters. They kind of like protect the waters. Some people believe. Um, hold on, I'm trying to get this picture blown up over here. So here's a picture of a kappa. They dwell in the waters. They change forms, and they some of them eat human flesh. Apparently, like mermaids, traditional mermaids, right? But the kappa is said that they have a bowl of water on its head, and if you can trick them into bowing to you, then emptying their bowl of water, they render them powerless, right? Hey everybody, how's it? Sorry, I'm not seeing all the names popping up, but yeah, how's it? How's it? In Hawaii, it's a little different. They don't have a shell, but their behavior is the same. Yeah? They dwell in the waters, they protect the waters, but um, we also have accounts of in old Hawaii. We have mo'o akua, mo'o gods, which are known to take human sacrifice, which are known to do that kind of stuff as well. But as I said, that's on the darker side. Unfortunately, nobody sits around a campfire and tells stories about the good mo'o, right? So let me do that before we start into a little bit more of the darker side of it, right? It was this. This is the area that I was first really introduced to them. I brought my cousin down here in the daytime, and her mom. My cousin was 16, and she had She has an amazing gift where back then anyway she could see clear as day. So we come down over here, and we're walking around, and she's like, "There's mo over here." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what the plaque says. This is the place." And she's like, "No, there are a lot of them." And so she points out like this little amphitheater area over there. They're all sitting down over there. They're kind of grooming themselves. They're just sunbathing. They're doing their thing. And they're all around the pond over here, and they're just hanging out. They're chilling. She describes what they look like. They're lizard people. They're people, but they have lizard features. They have tails, scales. She said they're all different in the sense of their tails do different things. Some goes around their waist, some goes over their shoulders, some curl at the end, some have little piercings, some have little tattoos and that kind of stuff. And they're just absolutely chill. They're just cruising over here. Like they're like us. They just kind of hang out and do their thing, and um, at the Pali Lookout on Oahu Ghost Tours, I would tell stories of the mo'o and the calling spirit over there because Glenn Grant made one of the stories famous. Although, yeah, we'll go ahead and tell that story. One of my first mo'o stories that I would share is every time we would go to the Pali Lookout, we would get to the lookout and we talk about the battle. Then we'd turn around and we'd walk down the old Pali Road. And as we walked down the old Pali Road a little ways, while the gate was still open, right? We would go under that tree and tell the stories of the spirits that dwell down there. A lot of that was Robert's idea, actually. And so we were, the story I would tell would be Glenn Grant's story about the calling spirit. It was a guy named Stephen. It's in the Obake files. And we do kind of add a little bit to it because the story is simple and short, but we kind of add a little bit more character to it, not changing the actual story, but adding a little details. I don't know if it was sunny and white clouds in the sky, but let me just tell the story anyway, right? So, there's brother Stephen. Stephen came down here from the East Coast, and he's attending the University of Hawaii. And Stephen decides to go hiking one morning, so he drives up to the Pali Lookout and just starts walking at 10 o'clock, at 10 a.m. He's walking down the old Pali Road, which goes around the ridges and all of that, and doesn't see many people. And he sees it's all overgrown, and he's loving the nature, and he's loving everything about it. It's so peaceful and tranquil and calm with the scenery, the smell of the ginger coming at you, the guava growing on the trees, all of that stuff. And as he rounds a turn, or as he's about to round the turn, a ridge, he sees this gorgeous Hawaiian woman walking up towards him, coming out of the trail, walking opposite him. And so he kind of gives her way. He steps to the side, lets her pass, and he looks at her, gives her a smile. And she looks at him, and she smiles at him too, and she nods, and she walks on by. And about 3 seconds later, she starts calling him behind him by his name. She's like, "Wait, Stephen, is that you? Stephen, is that you, Stephen?" And Stephen turns around and he's thinking to himself, "Oh God, one of those moments. I know this chick, but I don't know how I know her." But he's like, "Nah, there's no way because this girl's drop dead gorgeous. There's no way I'm gonna know her and never say hi and not know her name. There's no way." So he kind of plays it off and pretends, like, "Oh, yeah, I do know her. Hey, how you doing?" And maybe she knows him from the school. She sits behind him or something. He never really noticed her. So they start talking, and she says, "Oh, hey, Stephen, is this your first time down here? He's like, oh yeah, this is a beautiful walk. It's a beautiful little hike. And she's like, oh yeah, it is. She's like, I tell you what, let me take you to my favorite place. It's right down here a little ways. You go down and we can go up into a valley and there's a little waterfall and we can go swimming together. Yes, Steven. And she gives him a little wink and a smile and he's like, oh, okay, okay. He's like, oh, I didn't bring any swimming clothes. She says, that's okay. Me neither. He gives him another wink and he's like, oh yeah, all right, let's go. Hold on. Helicopter intermission. Hey, Melody, how's it? And so they start walking, and she is just talking and talking and talking, and he is just absolutely falling for her, just head over heels. This girl is gorgeous, her voice, her scent, everything about her. And soon she starts like, she knows the trail so well, she starts walking backwards down the trail so she can look at him. So they make eye contact, and she knows the trail good, so she doesn't stumble or trip or anything as they continue walking backwards down the trail, telling him everything he wants to hear, all of that stuff. And he's just falling for her, and he's like, oh my God, this girl is so awesome. And then all of a sudden, she stumbles a little bit, and she looks down at her feet. And when she looks up, back to Stephen, Stephen notices that her face is now gone. It's replaced by an old woman's face, and this old woman looks at him, barely something familiar about it, barely familiar, and says, Stephen, run! And he's like, what the hell? He stops and then he blinks and the girl's face is back again, like nothing happened. And she's talking to him like nothing happened, and they continue walking like nothing happened. And he's a little shaken. That woman's face, that old woman's face, he knew that old woman. And he tries to stop and get his bearings and kind of clear his brain a little bit. And as he continues, but to his horror, he realizes he can't stop. He has to continue walking. It's like his feet have a mind of its own. It's almost like he's in some kind of a trance where this woman, as long as he's looking into her eyes, he cannot look away and he cannot control his body. He cannot stop walking. And at every step he takes, he's filled with more horror and dread. Something doesn't feel right. Something feels very, very wrong. He continues walking down as the minutes pass, and then all of a sudden she stumbles again, and he takes that opportunity. The eye contact is broken, so is the spell. As she's looking down, he looks down at his feet, and he stops. He glances back up, and that old woman's face is back, and she says, Stephen, what are you doing? She's gonna kill you. Run! And Stephen just turned around and booked it and ran, but not before he looked down at her feet. And he realized that she kept walking backwards. You see, the pulley is pulley. Pulley in Hawaiian means cliff. This was a 900-foot drop. He watches in horror as she steps over the cliff. But instead of plummeting to her death, her feet vanish. From her knees down, it's like she's floating on a cloud. And she floats over the cliff. And that's when he turns and he runs and he books it. And as he's just running back to the parking lot, terrified, he hears her voice laughing at him. Just laughing and saying, I'll get you next time, Stephen. He gets into the car, drives away, heart still racing, and then he finally realizes that the woman he had seen, that old woman, was actually his aunt who had passed away over a decade ago back on the East Coast. She came all the way down here to Hawaii to save him from his fate. Right? Hey guys, aloha. How's it? So that's the story I shared at the Pali Lookout on the Ghost Tours before. I am at Kunawai Springs, downtown in Nu'uanu. It has a little more of the distractions of town, but it's a nice, calm oasis, little safe haven. Hey guys, how's it? Everybody that just joined, thank you for coming. Aloha, mahalo, and yeah. So yeah, these I would go on to say that these are shapeshifters. They are calling spirits, right? In Hawaii, you never call somebody to their back, right? By their name. You always, if someone's back is to you, you go, hey, hui, hey, you. you know. But if somebody calls your name to your back, that's bad luck. Yeah. It usually means that's a calling spirit, and if you turn around and there's nobody there, a curse has just been placed upon you. You were there earlier today, right on. Yes, this place is very tranquil. There's nothing scary at all. I kind of figured I'd share some of these stories in hopes that the mo'o over here would enjoy them. Yeah, as well. Um, so if you are a man, it's very clear what's gonna lure you, and trick you and lure you down the cliff, down into the water. Usually it'll be a woman in the river bathing. Hey, you can scrub my back for me. Hey, try come and bathe with me. And the guy is like, shoots, right? And it jumps inside, and then the woman then takes her true form as a lizard and drags him to the bottom and eats his intestines. And his body comes up several days later, kind of thing. If you're a woman, sorry ladies, you don't get this handsome hunk saying, hey baby, try come swim with me. Yeah, you don't get this guy that looks like The Rock or Jason Momoa, in the ocean, in the water, in the middle of the valley by yourself. No, you instead get a child, a child crying for help, a child drowning, saying, help me, I'm drowning. And so you're gonna jump in and you're gonna try to save the child from drowning when you realize the child disappears and is replaced by this lizard, this mo'o, right? Anyway, that's how I would tell the stories, right? In Japan, the kappa, you guys in Hawaii, you guys heard of the kappa, Kappa, kappa maki, that's cucumber, right? Cucumber roll in the rice and the nori. Kappa, it's called kappa because the cucumber is actually a traditional offering to the kappa, to the water spirit. The family would carve the child's name on the cucumber and throw it into the pond as an offering, and that's the deal that you spare this child because we feed you cucumber instead, right? Um, However, I do need to make a disclaimer. I went down there one night, a bunch of friends. We were kind of doing an impromptu ghost tour for fun. And I got down to that place. It's Likeke Falls, right? It's the top of Likeke Falls. It's actually a place where you can walk in. Right off of the road, you can walk up into a valley, and it's a place where there are twin waterfalls. Um, so we were sitting over there, and I was telling the story of the mo'o and how they're calling spirits and blah, blah, blah. When guy's equipment started going off, his EMF detector started going off, and now we're in the middle of nowhere. How are we getting EMF? You know, I've been there many times, and the EMF thing doesn't go off. We even thought maybe the phones, but no, we took the phones on airplane mode, and things still kept going off. We had Jennifer, who's a psychic medium with us, and she's like, "Oh, Joe, they're mad at you." And I'm like, "They're mad at me? What do you mean?" She's like, "They're all over here. There's a whole bunch of them. They want to let you know that's not them. For the most part, the mo'o mind their own business. They deal with their own self. They take care. You know what I mean? Their job is to take care of the water and the waterways and that kind of stuff. Their job is not to take humans. No. You said one bad apple doesn't define the rest of them. So I will say that as a disclaimer, right? They're not bad. As I saw over here through my cousin, they're just like us. And why wouldn't they be? Right? They just chill and hang out. Um, there was a night we're down the old Pali Road, and I just finished the story, and I start telling the group, if you're if you're a woman, you'll hear a little child crying for help. And gone fun it, what do I hear behind me down the old Pali Road? I hear a little girl calling for help. The whole group froze. There was 20 plus of us, right? We were just standing over there, and my back is down. It's to the is to the open, to the old abandoned highway, and I'm looking at the group, and the group is looking at me, and all of a sudden, up from behind me, you hear this, "Hey, hey you, come help me. Hey, hey you, come help me." And I look down the path, and I look up, and I'm like, hell no. And I guess some people on the tour thought that's part of the tour, right? And and I'm like, but then they looked at me and I'm like, bruh, no. And there was a guy that came up, he's like, well, what if that's a little girl? What if that's actually a little girl that needs help? So I called out. I'm like, hello, Is there anybody there? And we hear the same voice again on replay, on repeat, the replay. Hey, hey, you, come help me. Hey, you, come help me. You know, and I'm like the same thing, like a broken record. And I'm like, okay, you want me to come help you? You tell me your name. What's your name? Where you live? You tell me your mom and your dad's name. What school you go? Talk to me. Nothing. And the guy is like, what, you're not gonna go down there and see if it's a little kid? I'm like, brother, here's the flashlight. Why don't you go down and see if it's a little kid? He's like, oh, I don't wanna. I'm like, me too. So I called back and I'm like, if you want me to come down, you tell me something else. Tell me your name. Tell me your school. Tell me something different. And we waited just for about 30 seconds. No more nothing. I'm like, okay, we're getting out of here. And we all ran out. About a couple weeks later, we get to the Pali lookout on the tour, the two vans, and we get out of the van in the parking lot at the Pali. And out of the bushes, as soon as we got out of the van, we started the briefing, we started the protocol, and out of the bushes, we heard that same voice, the same words, the same tone, everything like a broken record, just coming out of the bush at the lookout this time. Hey, you, come help me. I'm like, brah. Nobody else but me that night had heard it before, and everybody was like, nope, we're getting back in the car. The hell with this. And we got back in the car and we left. We didn't even do that site. A while later, I'm not sure how long, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or two, we did a day tour, and the day tour was more of like sacred places. We would take them hiking up to Likeke Falls from the bottom. If you remember back on the first, that's the one I showed you a picture of with the Ali'i stones, with the Night Marcher Trail, perhaps, right? So we take the people up over there, and they can take pictures. We tell them some of the history and all of that. So I did that. We're up at the falls, and the falls. They go all the way up. You can almost see where the highway goes over, right? And as I'm over there, give them time. They're taking pictures. They're enjoying it. And about like 20 minutes later, I'm like, all right, guys, let's start wrapping it up, and let's head back down pretty soon. And as we start wrapping things up, from the top of the falls, we heard that same girl calling in the middle of the day this time. The same voice, the same words, the same tone, everything. And I'm just standing there like, what the hell is going on? And I don't know what it was, but everybody in the group turned around and ran. I mean, this is daytime, okay? There are still people around us that aren't even on the tour, and these guys turned around and ran. We weren't even telling ghost stories. This was a daytime sacred tour, and these guys, when I got back to the car and asked them why did they run, they said they felt threatened, right? They felt really threatened, and that's why they ran. I remember telling them something smart ass like, where are you guys running? I get the key, huh? You guys better not leave me behind. But yeah, that was my experience at the Pali Lookout or around that whole area. I did eventually go hiking back up there about a year ago by myself to the Twin Falls, and I sat down for a few hours, and it's very, very tranquil up there. Yeah, I don't think that calling spirit actually lives there. I think that there's a whole bunch of other ones because I could feel that stuff. Yeah. No, I'm not sick. I'm just have a little bit of the sniffles because I took an impromptu nap earlier. I like to sleep. I almost canceled the live tonight. But the stories, there are many, many stories. You guys remember the live I did back in August? That one was nuts. Oh my god. At Boiling Pots. I'm sure you remember that, Uy. Uy, Lonnie. Let's see. We were at Boiling Pots. I really should have rewatched that video, but I didn't. Not enough time in the day. Oh, the interesting part is his name is his name is Kuna, right? Don't cancel. It was raining. I never like it wet. You guys remember? Yeah, this picture. Ah, come on. You guys remember this picture from the tour we did, or the little live we did over at Boiling Pots, right? Yeah, I got up there with Uilani, and oh my God, I mean, I started talking about that because that's his area, right? Kuna, which Kuna is supposed to be like one of the Mo'o gods. I'm not sure what his rank is in compared to everybody else, but he is a very powerful one. I'm at a park right now, downtown. That's the reason why you hear people in the back and helicopters flying over and all that stuff. Hey, Karen, how's it? But yeah, I started sharing stories. He didn't like the stories very much. The legend says that he was that at Boiling Pots is where he fought with Maui and he was defeated by Maui because he was trying to harass Maui's mom, Hina, right? He was trying to flood her cave and just make trouble to her, and he came over and beat his okolea, and I was saying that. And another one of the stories was that that same cousin that told me about all the mo'o over here. Over here, she told me that she met a mo'o named Kuna, and what did I know about him? And I'm like, oh, that's a story about the legend, yeah. And she's like, what legend? I'm like, Big Island, Hilo side, Boiling Pots, and she's like, oh, that makes sense. Her dad is the kind guy who I forget what he did, but I think it was like mailman or something, and found some nice kiave wood or kiave logs for smoked meat, and it fell off the back of the truck, yeah, behind the dumpster. So after work, he went over behind the dumpster and picked it up, small kind tax, yeah, small kind Hawaiian tax like that. But that wood was actually from a shipment on the Big Island, and in that wood, this spirit traveled along with it and appeared to my cousin and said, "Worship me." And my cousin was 16 or even younger at the time. She was in the car, and it was in the back seat of the car with her, and it told her, "Worship me." And she said it was this big lizard. He had all the piercings. He had all the tattoos. He looked very scary, very intimidating, and he wanted her to worship him. And she said, "No, that's my cousin. No fear, no scared, nothing." And I'm like, "Really? You told him no like that?" She's like, "Yeah." And then I called my guardians, and they filled the car, and that one ran away. She said his name was Kuna, and he ran away because her guardians would have beat the okole off of him, right? Would beat his okole. So he, yeah, and that's why I was telling those stories, and that's when he appeared. Yeah, like a scene out of Jurassic Park, Wilani, right? He was coming out of the jungle, the way the leaves were moving. Yeah, this guy was huge. Like, I had to crane my neck up to look towards his energy and where he was coming. And I guess then the Hawaiian blood started coming, and I wanted to. He wanted to scrap, yeah. And I'm like, "What is freaking guy? He likes scrap." In my head, I'm like, "Bro, I like scrap too." Like we go, like Uilari had to pull me away, you know. And as I was walking away, the obelisk kept taunting me. Yeah, it kept taunting. Like I forget the words it was saying, but like as I was walking away, it was like to me in my head, I kept hearing what chicken, huh? Like that. I'm like this freaking guy, bro. Like holy, I think one word was hollow, and the word hollow. To me, the first thing that jumped in my head was chicken, because chicken get the kind hollow bones, yeah. That's why, like the birds, yeah, they can fly. And I'm like, oh, this fricka calling me out. Yeah, testing. You can feel the heat between you two. I wasn't gonna fight him. I kind of wanted to go down that path a little bit and see what would have happened. As soon as I bust some Michael the Archangel, oh, brother would have turned tail and ran. You notice right after that, we went to Rainbow Falls, right down the same river. Brother was nowhere to be found. It said chicken too. Yeah, yeah. And scared. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm like, this fricka, I'm walking away. It's like literally like Wilani is like pushing me away, you know what I mean? Like holding me back. And then my obelisk, the random word generator is like chicken. scared, like, oh, bruh. And she wasn't really holding me back, but it was like, her energy was. I kind of wanted to go back. She's like, no, 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 we need to go. I don't know what the hell I would have done. Probably went shishi in the bush at him. That probably would have pissed him off. But yeah, that one was crazy. I came home. It was the same feeling I had last night. The same feeling I had last night when I got home was I was just wired. I was wide awake. I had so much energy. I was just like, where I should have been tired from that encounter last night, I was like in the presence of all that energy, and that still tripped me out, bro. Hearing the lips smacking next to me, like, bruh, that was crazy. I'm sorry, getting a little distracted. Yeah, that was so cool last night. I want to do that again. Um, yeah. So back to the mo'o, what we're talking about over here. Um, there are a few stories, and I'm trying to pick and choose which. So, okay, one of the stories I liked, a lot of them I liked, a lot of them are my favorite, and I think they're Glenn Grant stories, right? So they're published in the book Obake Files. At least I think one of these are. I can't seem to find it again, but I can remember it. I remember the name of the story and everything. It's called The Picture Bride. And I swear it was Glenn Grant, and I've searched through all of his books, and I cannot find that at all, that story. Um, the Picture Bride was Glenn Grant was the guy that made the Obake Files. I read his books growing up. He was from mainland, but he came down here and just collected stories from the people that lived here, and he treated it with so much respect and aloha that you could you couldn't help but respect this guy. That is Obake Files. If you can find the page number, because I swear to God, I went through the whole thing a couple times because I really want to read that story again. Because it's nothing like I tell it. Although I tell it in a different way than Glenn Grant writes. Glenn Grant writes, he's a fantastic writer the way he writes these things. But so what happened was there was a Japanese girl who called Glenn Grant and said that her grandmother has a story to share, but she had to play the role of interpreter because the grandmother would only speak Japanese. And so he went down over there, and the story was shared to him or translated to him. The grandmother came to Hawaii as a picture bride. So the Japanese in Hawaii, the Japanese paniolos, the Japanese cowboys, they sent back to Japan for a wife, and like mail order bride kind. And so she came over and she married this guy because he bought a bride from Japan. She came down over here and they got married and all that stuff, and they liked each other. They were cool. One day they went fishing, and they went fishing over Mokapu Peninsula, where now it's kind of a Marine Corps base, right? And so they went on with a truck. I think they had a truck, an old truck, and they went over there and they were fishing over there. And they left the bride, the lady, to make camp, right? And so she made camp, she made the fire, she started cooking food, she started making the rice, getting everything ready for when the guys come back, you know. And as she's doing this, there's still sun. The sun starts going down a little bit. It's getting a little bit later. And she can still see them off in the distance fishing, doing their thing. And she soon sees this big Hawaiian man coming up, walking up from the ocean, from the beach. And she notices there are little fires that popped up around her. She could see the lights in the dusk, right? These little fires popped up, and she saw this Hawaiian man walking towards her. And so she calls out to him and says, aloha, like aloha. It gives him a big smile, because Hawaiians are always friendly, right? But this big Hawaiian man stops, turns and looks at her and scowls at her like, the hell are you doing here? Like that. And he just gives her this disgusted look, and he turns around and walks towards one of the fires. And then soon after that, fire went out, followed by another, followed by another. And what she thought that there were a whole bunch of people camping around them, and apparently all their fires just went out. And as the old man was walking away, she kind of sticks tongue at him, yeah, like, oh, rude, this guy, and sticks tongue at him. And then she kind of notices as he's walking away, he no more feet from the knee down. It's floating, right? Thank you. Chicken skin. I'll go take a picture of this one. Thank you. I don't, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying not to read some of the comments. I'm getting distracted. Um, as he's walking away, he doesn't have any legs. And so the girl then realizes all the fires are being put out. And then she starts to yell, Obake, Obake, Obake. She's terrified now because she just saw a ghost, right? And now she feels more by herself than ever before. And she's yelling Obake, Japanese for ghost or strange things. And as she's yelling that, the guys come running up, right? They come running up from the beach to see what's happening. And her husband is like, what's going on? And she's like, Obake, Obake. And he's like, so he just laughed. He's like, oh, Obake, you just scared of the shadows, kind. And so she points to where the camp was, and she's like, there's people over there. Ask them. I saw their fire. So he grabs a lantern because now it's dark and walks over towards where she said the light was, and comes back in a few minutes, pale, and says, okay, pack up. We need to leave. And she's like, wait, what? Why? What did they say? And he's like, there's nobody there, but that's an old Hawaiian graveyard where you pointed. And so they were all packing up really fast, getting ready to leave, and they realized that one other party is missing. This Japanese guy never came back from the beach. And so they go up and down and they're looking for him, and they find him on the sand. They find him unconscious on the sand. As they go up to him, they realize that his skin is burning with a fever, and his skin is green, like tinged green slightly. And he's not responsive, so they throw him in the truck. They drive him to the hospital, and several days later, they're still wondering what the hell happened. And he finally comes back, and he finally wakes up a few days later, and finally can relay the story of what happened. This guy said he was fishing when he heard the girl yelling Obake, Obake, and he had the control net, yeah. So he was pulling the net up so he can run back, yeah. He was pulling the net up out of the water so he could run back and see what the problem was, when all of a sudden he caught this big fish. So he caught something big in the net, and so he's fighting it now. He pulls it up, and to his horror, as he pulls it to the beach, he realizes he caught a lady. There was this naked Hawaiian lady stuck in his net. And he takes it off of her, and he's just apologizing profusely and just bowing and just completely embarrassed, because she's just standing there naked. And she just kind of like laughs at him. And ends up tormenting him, like jumping on his back and holding him so tight with her legs that he cannot get her off, right? And she's like a piggyback ride, and she's riding him like a horse on his back, and he's running around until he can't get her off. He can't dislodge her, and finally he falls down out of sheer exhaustion, and she sits over him. And as she's sitting up, she sticks her tongue out of her mouth, and her tongue extends to several feet long. And as she's sitting vertically, her tongue starts licking his chest, licking his face, up and down. And that's the last time, and that's when he lost consciousness. So yeah, that was the story of the mo'o. So like the kapa has a bowl of water on its head and a shell, supposedly. The mo'o, however, has a long tongue. Some people claim that the tongue is for surfing, or that they could surf on their tongue around the waves and around the water, right? But yeah, let me read some of these comments over here. Chicken Skin Tales, 49 favorite stories from Hawaii. Thank you. Yes. Do you think the evil spirits got Glenn Grant? I had him as a professor, and remember her wasn't that old when he wasn't that old when he passed away. No, he was in his 50s. He passed in 2003, right? He had experiences, amen, Sue, and there was a car accident that led him to the stories, if I remember correctly. I have to catch up on it. I read them so much that I memorized a lot of the stories. And, I never met the guy in person. I was always younger. I graduated in '99. He passed in '03. It was always something that I meant to do, a Glen Grant tour my whole life, but I never really did. Yeah. Um, yeah. But I'm friends with his protege, Lopaka. So that's something. Still, while we're on the subject of Glen Grant, I kind of want to take a little bit of a side um, squirrel moment. Um, we did a walking tour. Of course, I've seen pictures of him, and the pictures I saw of him was after I started Oahu Ghost Tours in 2008. So it was, um, that was pretty. I haven't. I think I haven't even read the story for like years, bro, over a decade, and that was pretty much on point to the story. Right on. I remember these stories very vividly. That's how good of a writer Glenn Grant was. So I was doing the tours downtown, the walking tour. We were at the Kaka'ako fire station, which is said to be very haunted with the choking ghosts and all of that. And I had a group, small group, I think maybe 12 people or so, and none of them were locals, I don't think. And we were walking along South Street down to the old Kaka'ako fire station. And as I stepped out, I looked, and at the bottom of the old Kaka'ako fire station, which is now turning into a museum, I saw a man just standing with his hands on his hips, looking up at the Kaka'ako Museum at the fire station. Just he had white hair, he had a collared shirt on, he like a collared aloha shirt on, he had slacks, and he had like dress shoes. And I was just kind of cracking a joke. I thought we had locals on the tour. I'm like, hey, I turned around. Hey, that guy kind of looks like Glenn Grant, huh? How is that? How funny is that? His hair, his clothes, everything, the pictures I had seen of him. And they're like, who? I'm like, Glenn Grant. None of them were local, so none of them knew. And they're like, what guy? And I looked back. This is only a matter of seconds. And I just turned around. And I looked back, and there was nobody standing there. I ran around the building as much as I could. I looked everywhere, and there wasn't anybody there. But I swear to God, I could describe how he looked. Everything. It was awesome. I believe I met Glenn Grant that night, in a way. There was another night at we're doing a tour. We're ending a tour at Kavaihau. We're on the steps of Kavaihau Church. And a lady came up to me and she's like, there's this guy with white hair on the tour. I'm like, really? I didn't notice him. She's like, no, he's a spirit. And he tells me his name is Glenn. And he wanted me to tell you that he really likes your stories. I'm like, oh my God, that is freaking awesome. She's like, I think he's a ghost. Walking the same grounds, telling the same stories that he did. Man, what an honor. What an honor. I always wanted to go Glenn Grant's tour too and never got the chance. Yeah. So I mean that I wear that with me as a badge. It's like that was just completely awesome. So while we're on the subject of Glenn Grant, there's one last story I want to tell. Well, I'm gonna share another personal story first, and then we'll end with one more Glenn Grant story and then maybe we'll walk around here a little bit and see what's going on. So as you'll tell in the next story, accidents kind of happen. Like my sister, she worked on the cruise ship, right, on the Pride of America cruise line. She was the cruise director. Eventually worked her way up. But I remember she called me one day when I was doing the ghost tours, and this was maybe about 2008 or so, and she was like, um, Joe, something happened, and I need to know what you think. And I'm like, what? What happened? What's going on? She's like, we just lost one of our crew members on the Big Island. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, yeah, he went with a bunch of friends. They went to Boiling Pots, and they went swimming, and he never came out. Like they were all getting out of the water. The friend was right in front of him. He was right behind. They could have reached and grabbed him. He pulls himself up out of the water, and he turns around to help his friend, and the friend wasn't there anymore. Was just completely gone. And yeah, and she's like, so I know the stories that we read growing up, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's not supposed to happen, is it? I'm like, I know what you're thinking. I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to happen anymore. And she's like, is it still happening? Is it dangerous to swim there? And I'm like, you know what? Let me call my friend. She's a kahuna. So when I mentioned last night, let me call her up and let me see what she has to say because she actually lived on the Big Island. So I called her up, and I like the kahuna. They're all mystical, right? They think they don't. I don't know what caller ID is. You know, she answers the phone. Hi, Joe. I knew it was you calling. I never like disrespect her. I just kind of laugh. I crack jokes, you know. I'm like, yeah, because you get caller ID, Auntie. And she's like, I know why you calling. And I'm like, really? She's like, oh no no no. I'm sorry, I missed the part. So my sister told me about that and told me something's not right, and I said I'd check with my friend, but I went to go use the bathroom first. I didn't immediately call my friend, the Kahuna. I remember I sat down. I get all the books in my bedroom to go read the ghost stories and stuff before. And I opened up this book, a book about legends, and I just opened it up to a random page, just flipped it open, and the legend there was about Kuna, the Mo'o god of boiling pots. And I'm like, oh damn. And I read his legend and all of that stuff, and I'm like, what's the odds of that? That's weird. The same place where that guy died, right? I pull up the legend about that place. So anyway, I call the kahuna and she tells me, she's like, it's exactly what you think it is, Joe. And I'm like, you don't even know what I went to ask. You know, she's like, hi Joe, I know it was you calling. She's like, it's exactly what you're thinking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, the reason why you called me. You're calling me about the boy drowning on the Big Island. And I'm like, hey, yeah. She's like, in boiling pots? I'm like, yeah, that's the one. How'd you know? She just kind of gave a little laugh. She's like, it's what you think. It still happens. It still happens like that. She's like, that's why the locals are smart enough to not swim in the waters, especially at a place called Wailua Stream, or Wailuku, sorry, Wailuku Stream. Wailuku meaning deadly waters. You know, why would you swim in a place called Deadly Waters? The locals do know better, but every now and then, she tells me, locals do die. They're jumping off into a waterfall, but they always die before they hit the water. You know, and their bodies just don't come up for days and days and days at a time. And the thing was, I got a lot of conflicting information because I found out from my sister that the guy wasn't found for several days. His body just came floating up in boiling pots, kind of thing. And then while this was going on, I was also a tutor in the daytime, and so I remember the family that I tutored, the student was from the Big Island, and they were talking to me about that because they love ghost stories. And so I'd go over there, teach the boy for like a couple hours, and then tell ghost stories, right? And we just talk story like that. And we looked it up in the paper, and the paper said that the first day, the paper said that there was a drowning, but the boy was recovered and he was medevaced over to Hilo Hospital where he died later. The next day, the newspaper said he died en route on the helicopter. The third day said they finally recovered his body. And I'm like, what is going on? I remember looking at the lady as we're looking at these three newspaper articles that are clearly contradicting each other, being like, what the hell is going on? You know? So yeah, I always tell my kids, if you're gonna go swim in the water, no, don't go shishi in the water. Go shishi in the bush outside, and then you go swim. And always be respectful. E kalamai a'u, I'm sorry, excuse me. Oli pilikia, I have no problems, and ask for permission. That way, at least the guardians will be on their side, right? About a month ago, just had a guy from cruise ship fell in boiling pots. They found him 4 days later, 30 feet underwater. Oh, again? Oh man, I don't want to pull it up, but I might have to look that up. Oh, also, get him Marca. Um, that Hawaiian newspaper for the month of October, for the month of Halloween, their subject is mo'o. I thought that was kind of cool. I saw that at one of the schools. What's it called? That paper last year I think was Kaupe. That was the article about Kaupe and some of his stories, which I'm gonna do tomorrow. Nah, I'll post it when probably tomorrow when I get into my work car. But yeah, so a favorite story growing up. I mean, this was my favorite story growing up. This was like everybody's favorite story. Halloween, I went to, I went to Kamehameha during Halloween. I remember the teachers would tell ghost stories. And one year they would tell their favorite ghost stories. One year, two of my teachers told us the same story, and it's just what I'm gonna tell you. It's a Glenn Grant story. Yeah, something like that, Melody. Um, so as I said, Glenn Grant collected stories a lot, right? And this story he had collected from retired HPD officer, a retired policeman, that his beat was up on the North Shore back in the 50s or so. And back in the 50s, he recalls something very, very strange enough for him to go up to Glenn Grant and share the story with him. Um, and perhaps a little bit more. He told Glenn Grant something, this strange thing happened. He got a call, that they had to go. He got a call that somebody had drowned at Waimea Falls, Waimea on Oahu, up on the North Shore. That somebody had drowned over there. And so he and his team went over there, in the afternoon. They got up there late afternoon, and they find out what happened. And it's a bunch of, I think it was merchant marines. They were one of their friends jumped off of the. I think there were four of them that came up. One of their friends jumped off of the rock, jumped off of the waterfall, and slipped and hit his head, landed in the water. And the story went as his friend jumped in, to swim to get him, like they went in to grab him and swim to shore because he was obviously knocked unconscious, right? Something grabs him from the water and pulls him under. Like they see their friend, he goes down, then he floats back up, and they see his pants, they see his body, floating in the water. Right before he reaches the friend, something grabs him by the shorts, the friend, and yanks him under the water, and they don't see him again. And they went looking for him and everything, and they could not find him. And so the officer, that's when they call 911. They go up there and they start doing their search and all of that, and they can't find the boy either. And soon it starts to get dark, and so the cop is like, "Hey, it's getting too dark. We cannot continue the search. We'll come back as soon as the sun comes up. I promise you. Why don't you guys come down my place? You guys can crash. I get space for you guys. Come over to my house. Get a good night's sleep. We can begin the search just fresh in the morning." And the other three guys were like, "Oh, thank you for the offer, but we'd rather stay here." They're like, if his body does come floating up over the night, we don't want him eaten by a wild animal or something. So we're just gonna sleep we're gonna camp out by the water's edge and see what happens. So we'll see you in the morning. The cop's like, okay, whatever, that's fine. And the next morning, the officer and the team, they're coming up. They have all their things for recovering bodies, and basically it's a long pole with a hook at the end of it. Then they're gonna scrape the bottom of the pond, scrape the bottom of the water. And as he's walking up, he doesn't feel very hopeful because this is not the first time it's happened. It's happened several times in his career that he had to be part of the investigation to recover a body. And the strangest thing, he told Glenn Grant, is that no matter how hard they search, no matter how hard they look, they don't find the body. All of us, they will spend days and days and days, and usually on the third day or the fourth day, the body will just float right up to the top of the water, like it was there the whole time. But he could not explain why. When we were in droughts and the water was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet below what it should be, When there was no water, he would go down and he'd look. Maybe there's a little underwater cave, underwater ledge where these bodies might get stuck, and he could never find anything like that. Um, so he gets back up there. He's walking up the valley as the sun is coming up, and as he's walking up the valley, he sees these three guys running towards him, and he said, his description was, "Oh man, if these guys were white yesterday, they were shark bait today. They were like bright white. They were terrified." And as they came running over, they were all talking and they were all excited and talking and terrified and scared at the same time. And he finally calmed them down to get the story out of them. And the story that they told him was that they had decided to camp out at the pond like normal, like that. I mean, like they were planning on doing. And it was a really dark night. There was like no stars, no light, nothing. But it was probably around 10 o'clock at night when they started dozing off. And as they started to doze off, they heard a splashing noise at the other end of the pond, like something emerging from the pond, like a person walking out of the pond. And they heard this splashing noise come up to shore on the opposite side of the pond. And they were like, what the hell? And then they start hearing the crunches of leaves and branches, and they start to hear footsteps coming towards them around the pond, right towards where they are, in the overgrown grass. And it's like stalking almost, and the boys were scared. And it gets just feet away from them, and then it lets out this blood-curdling scream as it jumps over the boys and lands with a loud splash in the pond again. And the boys are terrified, but they're not moving. You know, it's pitch black. And they wait a little while longer, and the same event happens. They hear the splashing on the other side of the pond. They hear something stalking around the pond in the bushes, coming right towards them, letting out this inhuman scream. They said it sounded like the scream of somebody whose flesh was being rended from their body. And then it landed with with a splash. And at this point, they ran. They booked it. They ran down, they climbed up a tree, and they stayed in the tree until they saw the sun starting to come up and the cop walking up the trail. The officer was like, well, what did it sound like? And one of the boys he recreated the sound. And the cop that knew every animal back there said, I've never heard that sound before. And he said it did sound like somebody who was having their flesh just torn off their back. And with that, he tells the boys to go into his car or go down and get some sleep because they had not slept all night. And they were going to continue the search. And as he's getting up there, he's still not hopeful that they're going to find anything. The water is murky. You know, at best condition with the waterfall going, you got a couple feet of visibility and then nothing. The pond is small. If you've ever been to it before, the pond is not big. Maybe a little bigger than this pond here. And so as they get over there, everybody stops all of a sudden. They're looking, and there's no water coming off the waterfall. There's no wind. There's nothing. The water is smooth, like a mirror. It's still. It's just like glass. No ripples, not a single ripple in the whole pond. And for the first time in his life, he saw that the pond was crystal clear. You could see every rock, every pebble on the bottom of the pond. So he's thinking to himself, we're going to find this guy today. He's right there, and we're going to find him within minutes. So you can imagine after an hour or two passed, and they still hadn't found him. He was just beside himself, like, what the hell? Now, as the stream goes down, it's built up. So it's like, there's the pond, and then the stream leaving the pond is like not even a foot deep. Well, that's how it is now. So and then the stream is literally not even like a foot deep. It's just a little tiny stream. So it's not like the body went down the stream or anything. But they looked and they looked and they looked, and the cop decided to stand on top of the rock, walk around. And as he stood on the rock where the boy jumped off of, he looked down into the water, and he saw a splash of color. And as he focused on the color, on the bottom of the pond, an image appeared before him, shorts, and then a body. He noticed that the body was laid out on a flat, on a rock. I think it was a pyramid rock, right? It was laid out on a rock that actually looked like an altar. And the boy was lying, his body was lying on top of what looked like an underwater altar. And maybe it was the angle or something, but they couldn't, he could see it perfectly fine now. And he called to the guys on the bottom of the pond and directed their hooks, and they saw the rock too. And he's like, just scrape over the pond, just scrape over the rock with your hook, and you'll get him. I'm looking at him right now. And so they do that, and as they hook a piece of him, his arm or his leg, their body appears, and they see him, and they start pulling him up towards the edge of the pond, where they have the body bag ready and all of that stuff to recover his, yeah. But as they start pulling him out of the water, reportedly, something started pulling him back in. And they were playing tug of war with an unseen force in this body. They said while this was going on, just mere minutes, the water went from calm to boiling, like a washing machine where it would churn, and the water was splashing up and down like the agitation cycle on the washing machine, and just back and forth and back and forth, and the water was literally shooting up for feet, right, like 3 feet high in the air. And the guy's looking at it like, what the hell's going on in this little tiny midst of a whirlpool? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he sees like a dark figure just randomly appear every now and again. Not enough to see what the figure is, but they finally win the battle and they pull him out. And as his foot gets out of the water, a water spring forms with water shooting 3 feet in the air where his body is pulled out as they're pulling him out. This water is just shooting up all around his body. That is not natural, I'll tell you. And they finally get him out, get him into the bag. And that's when they're chased out of the valley by a tidal wave. I don't know how high the tidal wave was. I forget. I want to say 10 feet. I want to say maybe more. I forget. This tidal wave chased everybody this came from the back of the valley out to the ocean. And they all ran. They booked it. They got out of there. And they were like, what the hell? And the cop could not understand what went on. He went to the university and he told them, how could this happen? And they're like, no, that didn't happen. He looked up earthquakes, flash floods in that area during that time period. It had not rained in days. The waterfall was empty. There was nothing coming down. There was no water coming down. There was no earthquakes. There was no natural phenomenon. He couldn't understand what he had witnessed. It wasn't for a few years later that he went back up to the falls just for recreation. And as he got up to the falls, he saw this old Hawaiian man, this kahuna up there. And so he talked to the kahuna a little bit. And the kahuna was friendly, so he decided to ask him, to share his experience with him. And he's like, I don't understand what happened. And he told him the story, and the kahuna's listening, and he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the cop's like, how does that make sense? And he's like, well, you see that this pond here in ancient days was the home of a mo'o, a god, a water deity, a water god. But this one in particular had been known to take human sacrifice. What happened, the natural way of doing human sacrifice is it will drag the body under the water, it will do its ceremonies, it will do its thing to purify the body, and then when it's done with the body, the body is done, and it disposes of it by letting it float right back up and down the stream or whatever. He's like, what you did was you removed the body before all the ceremonies could be done. And because the ceremonies went unfinished, the water became dirty and tainted. And so what the mo'o had to do was it had to empty the dirty water out of its home and let the springs fill it up again with fresh water. He's telling Dr. Grant that story, and as he does, he pulls out a copy of the actual police report that he had filed all those years ago and shows Glenn Grant. And he also pulls out right next to that, in his shirt, he has a tea leaf that he keeps with him, close to his heart, just in case. Yeah. So that is one of the favorite stories down here in Hawaii. I saw a lot of comments. Let me see if I can read some of them. Aussie Tiger, how's it? Aloha. Hey, thank you for the stars, you guys. Mahalo for the stars, the supports, the likes, all that good stuff. Yeah. If you guys are new, we're doing this every night for this month, and the stories will get scarier and darker as we progress. Karina, how's it? How's it? How's it? How's it? You grabbed the copy. Yeah. That's the one right there. I saw you type it out. The magazine is called Kavaiola, and they did a special about the mo'o that we're talking about tonight. Yeah, it was awesome. I have the other one too. I was cleaning my room the other day and I found the Kaupe one. Yeah. Scott, mahalo for the stars, bro. Thank you. I remember this story. Very sad for his family. Why did this happen, Joe? Well, this happens. Glenn Grant assumed that right above that pond is an ancient Hawaiian temple called Pu'u'o Mahuka. It's an ancient Hawaiian heiau. And I'm familiar with that heiau because according to the history that I read, my ancestor Heva Heva, that we talked about last night, keep in mind he was one of the people that was in charge of human sacrifice, but once Kamehameha died, Heva Heva led the last battle of Hawaii. And this battle was to overthrow the old Hawaiian ways, to get rid of the old Hawaiian gods, and to abolish human sacrifice. Because he knew that the one true God was coming. And he stayed at this heiau above Waimea because he knew from the stars and the clouds that the first missionaries to Oahu would land over in Waimea. And when they did, he greeted them and he was ready to be baptized. You could imagine their how they were tripping out, you know. But that place during Kamehameha's time anyway, when he conquered the island, was a sacrificial temple used for human sacrifice. Pu'u'o Mahuka. And the interesting part of that heiau is Kamehameha passed a law saying nobody that is non-Hawaiian can be held accountable for breaking Hawaiian kapu. Good night, Brenda. Thanks for coming. For breaking the Hawaiian law because they do not know the Hawaiian law, so we're not going to kill them if they do something wrong. At this heiau over in Waimea, they didn't get the memo because there was a British vessel, I want to say, that had docked off the shore and they went inland to fill their water stores up with some water, and they had gone to a pond that was sacred and filled their water casks up with the sacred pond water, and the penalty was death. And so the warriors grabbed them and sacrificed them. They were between the ages of, I believe it was 19 and 22 or something like that. This is the only this is the only Hawaiian temple where non-Hawaiian people were sacrificed, period. And since then, the people who drowned in the falls all seem to have the same profile. They're the same age group, and they're also some part of military, some part of something to do with that. That's the thing that Glenn Grant researched and found that there was a similarity with all of that stuff as well. So perhaps that's the reason why it happened. I will, however, push that from what I was told and from what I see, they don't kill. Yeah. I know the story is they will drag you underwater and blah 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 and that kind of stuff, but the ones that I have heard of, actually, they don't kill you. I'm not sure about kuna at that boiling pots, but for the most part, they wait. Even my kahuna friend told me they wait, and this guy died before he hit the water, and so they figured, waste not, want not, right? We have a perfectly good sacrifice here. He's already dead. We didn't have to kill him. He just landed in my house dead, and I needed that, so they used him for their ceremonies. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of how I've seen it, if that makes any sense to you. But yeah, let's take a little walk around here. Uh, I want to see if we have any kind of sear. So I'll spend about another 5 minutes. I have a ghost tube sear. I want to see if we can get a picture of a mole or a lizard or something. Oh, and it's already going. No, but we do have this wonderful picture of a portal. Looks like a mirror. There you go. So I'm gonna do that by putting on two of them. I mean, I have all these devices. Might as well put them to use, huh? Try to go across the street, bro. Not that brave, bro. Come on. What's across the street, Jubu? Hold on. I got putting this thing back on. I have a strap for this. I bought it, so I'm gonna use it. Go and fun it. Yeah, we have another one. Yeah, it looks like a fire. Is there another pond over here? Ah, looks like ashes and fire. One of the original ponds that isn't destroyed. You know, I'm gonna have to go in the daytime and look. According to the plaque over there, this is one of the original ponds that they couldn't block up. And so this one was a healing one where even the mud would be used for stuff and all that. Um, oh wait, there's another one. Oh, there's a guy. The park has a pond too. There you go. Looks like an old military guy. You know, there's nobody there. We might as well check them out. Let me get the tablets on around my neck, and then we go take a walk. We used to come here on the ghost tours, yeah, just a couple times to tell about old stories and stuff. And a lot of the neighbors would come out when they see a whole tour group pull up, especially with the van that's in Oahu Ghost Tours. Um, so the neighbors here are really cool. Oh, I'm glad I went out tonight. I almost turned around and went home. This place got the good vibes. Yeah, World War vet. Let's see. Eh. Hold on, I'm gonna try something. Oh yeah, let's walk around. Oh, we get ants. Huh. And look, sorry, another fire. That's interesting. You see, you got nice little ducks here. Yes, this was a healing center in old times. Minsu knows more about this place than I do. Hands down, she knows more about this place than I do. When you walk out the Kunawai Park area towards the playground, when you walk out the Kunawai Park area, go towards the playground, then go left to the corner. Okay, can. Yeah, we're gonna walk this way again. Sorry. Get the kitty cats. I just want to make sure that I have everything. I wonder if I can do this. No, I cannot. Okay, I did grab everything. Don't like to leave Opala here. Very good juju here. I brought my friend Gary over here. He was having trouble with his back, trouble with his legs. He could only walk with a cane. I brought him here, brought a little ho'okupu, dipped his toe in the water, threw his cane out to the side, and started walking. I'm like, brah. Small kind dramatic, huh, bro? It's that kind of place, though. You're gonna come healing place, right? You're gonna be, you wanna be healed. You gotta bring something, an offering to you, a ho'okupu or something, yeah. Whether it's a lei, flowers, fruit, avocados, I think would be good. Yes, I'm still here. And here's a lady. Ooh, two ladies. Ooh. Be quiet because they'll call the cops on you if you do spirit. I'm not doing the spirit box, bro. Don't worry. I did want to point out over here, depending on the tide. Hello. Depending on the tide, yeah. Over here is usually over here's a water spring as well, right on the side. Bruh, you gotta chill out, dude. Let's see. I get one flashlight, yeah, but the bug I know like it's facing the wrong way. Oh, there we go. Oh, so stupid. It's a circle. I can turn it around. I'll just read it to you. The water bubbling in this pool comes from the Kunawai Springs. Natural source of water situated beneath this and nearby properties of Kunawai Lane. The springs were the site of an ancient healing center as recent as the late 1880s. The healing center was regulated by a owahine kahuna, a priestess, who believed herself to be a descendant of the first mo'o sent to Earth. Mo'o were supernatural people of Oran, Hawaii, sent to Earth by the gods to guard the freshwater sources. Many springs and lakes were originally in the area. In later years, the following six were well known: Kunawai Nui, Kunawai Iki, Kawai Olena, Kumu Hahana, Kalua Palolo, and Kalua Mo'o. The springs were noted for the curative benefits derived from the waters and from the clay found at the bottom of one of the springs. Only the ali'i were allowed in any of these places on Kunawai Lane. The Kumu Hahana and Kalua Mo'o ponds were considered very sacred. Medicine was made with the waters from Kawai Olena, which is located under the adjacent Eva properties. Treatment for the ill began with the use of medicines and ended with a bath in Kawai Nui, the largest of the bodies of fresh water, which is under Kunawai Playground across the street. The sick could bathe in Kunawai Nui and Kunawai Iki with permission from the guardian mo'o after proper prayers and offerings were presented. It was believed that the pure waters of the springs and lakes washed away the sins causing the illness. Clay for which Kunawai was known was found at the bottom of Kalua Palolo. It was whitish gray and was valuable as a pack for irritated skin and falling or dull hair. Kunawai waters were important also because they irrigated the taro patches in lower Nu'uanu Valley and thus helped to provide the Hawaiians with their staff of life. Yeah, I'm not going to use the light if I don't need to. I'm going to turn this down too. Then I'm just going to go over all the pictures of that. I've never seen this place empty. Usually there's just choked people over here. So you see it's over here? Jubu? Here's the basketball courts. Oh. why is nothing more done with this? I have never seen this in my life. It needs to be cleaned. Look at all the rocks around it though. Got the tea leaf plants. Got the guardian Elio. The dogs. Oh, thanks, dude. I have no idea this was here. Yeah, we get bonus fish pond over here. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want my house built over a water spring, especially a sacred one at that, right? Oh, very cool. You know what? Nobody else stayed here for the first time ever that I've seen. Just be aware though, they will call the cops if your light gets annoying. Yeah, my light's off already. Yeah. I want to go over there and clean them up and take all the weeds out and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I should contact, I did get in, a lady did contact me before um, for a house blessing years ago. And it so happened that her husband's family were the caretakers of this area, of the pond specifically. And there was stuff happening to the daughter, I think, the little girl, who I recommended that she come and she learn how to do this kind of stuff. All right. What did we get? So we got this on this one. That's the only one we got. After the soldier guy. We got this one here, the fire, followed by this, and then this. Oh. That one is creepy. And then this. A lot of fire tonight, huh? Interesting. And then okay, tell me what this looks like to you. Bruh. Yeah, I think so. Oh wait, that's right. It burnt down, and they eventually put the playground in the courts. Yes, Ho'okupu. That's exactly what I was thinking. It would be good to provide an offering. I mean, I don't think many people know what it is over here, because if they did, it wouldn't be in such disrepair. Yeah. Or maybe they know what it is, but maybe they just. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, there's literally a picture of a ho'okupu, an offering over there, wrapped in leaves, which is exactly which is what I did yesterday. That's something, I tell you. So yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Um, I'll tell you though, those are the houses I want to. I want to buy one of those houses that's right next door. Huh? What an amazing place to live. Yeah, I did it, and I've been to this place many times, and I've taken people here, and all of that. It's like that place is just kind of forgotten, huh? Let's flip this thing around, but we are gonna call it a night. Oh, gotta sit down. Yes, no need to look at my belly button. So we're gonna call it a night, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, enjoying the stories. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow we are gonna do Calpe stories. Tomorrow we will be at Judd Trail, and we're gonna do Calpe stories. And then we have a special guest afterwards that's gonna share some of her stories as well. So looking forward to that. It may be a little bit longer than usual, but yeah. You guys will have to see who the special guest is, but I will tell you she's on the live right now. We're gonna be Judd tomorrow, Joy. So yeah, come on over. Jubu, you off island, huh? Let's say bring your bowl. That's a story for another time. That'll be awesome to tell when it's ready. But yeah, um, yeah, a lot of Joeys tonight, huh? You can call me Joey, I guess. That's fine. Well, yeah, like, subscribe, share, blah, 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 blah. You know what? No need. I'm going to try and make these videos into smaller, more digestible segments. Yeah, bring the Cory bowl. Yeah, I see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., we're going to talk about something a little bit darker. At a place a little bit darker. Ah, okay, okay. Bro, you should have left the bowl with me, bro. Or Corey, actually. You should have left the bowl with Corey. I'll see you guys later, bro. Aloha.